We're going to go ahead and get started. Again, welcome. Um, this evening, we're just going to do a brief, well, maybe not so brief because we're here to since overview of the program. Tonight is intended, or how the information that we're sharing is really intended for those who are considering an MFT and art therapy program, such as the one that we're offering, and considering the one here at this particular university. So you might still be considering whether or not this is the path for you. This also is intended for those of you who know you intend to apply and may actually also be completing some of the admission requirements and just want a little bit more clarification on that. We will not be able to answer everything, but we will do the best we can. I am available afterwards via email to answer any questions. Um, and I do that all the time. So please do not hesitate to reach out to me and I can answer more specific questions or things that you just kind of got missed tonight. I also anticipate that there may be some questions about financial aid and support. We I will show you where the list of resources is and to redirect you to that this evening, but we will not be getting into conversation about that just because that's not our department. Um, but there are some resource sessions available by the graduate programs this evening, which we will also share the links for so that you can get more information about financial aid support and also for some of our international students, what international admissions looks like. There's a session about that as well and some other things. So we'll make sure that you get that information and get you to the right place to get those questions answered. So let's go and get into, oh, and let me actually introduce you as well. We have two of our students and graduate assistants this evening that are also assisting us. We have Kennedy and we have M. You can give a quick wave. They are going to be managing a lot for me this evening as I get into the slide presentation, including answering questions in the chat or managing them so I can answer them for you. I just ask that you please just be mindful of not messaging them directly because it just gets confusing for them to manage the chat that way. If you can just keep your questions in the general chat and one or both of them will answer them or alert me that I need to pause in the presentation and answer questions so that we get to everyone. And there will be a question and answer period at the end of the presentation as well. But again, this session will be recorded for those of you who may not be able to stay until the end of it. All right, let's go. All right. Kennedy, can you just give me a thumbs up if you can see the slides, okay? All right, so we're gonna keep going. And I do have some notes with me to keep us on track, and I'll be mindful of the time. But again, thank you all for being here. And hopefully you're attending the rest of the sessions and visiting the campus as well. And I should mention now, while I'm remembering, there is a tour of the campus that I believe you can register for that's happening on Friday, the 13th of this week. Part of that will be a visit to the actual MFT Art Therapy Suite just for an hour. So if you want to come by, make sure you've registered for that as well. Mhm. Okay, so just a brief agenda, just so what you know, what to anticipate for this evening, what we're going to cover. Talk a little bit about the MFT Art Therapy program. We are housed in the College of Fine Arts, and I'll talk about that a little bit. We'll talk about our founders, our leadership, our faculty and staff, do a brief introduction to them as well. I will go over in detail the program course schedule for the 2 and 3 year tracks. We do have 2 tracks, but those details are also listed on our website. So please do not be concerned with trying to remember the information or capture everything on the slides. Everything that I'm sharing with you is on our website, including the course schedule, so you can take a look at that. Then talk about a little bit of our programs beyond the classroom, including our clinic and our research institute. I will go over in detail our admissions requirements and answer some questions about that. I'll share a little bit about LMU community support, but also our professional community and organizations as well. And then again, like I said, tonight, there will be other student resource sessions that begin after 6 o'clock, and we will give you the links to those to join as well when we get to that part. All right. So, as I mentioned before, we are part of the College of Communications and Fine Arts, and there's a history to that when we used to be a part of Immaculate Heart College and joined LMU many years ago under the College of Communication and Fine Arts. Our current dean is Dean Alexander, and I like to introduce him as part of this presentation because we are very fortunate to have very strong support and advocacy by our dean in the program. And that doesn't always happen across universities. And we also are involved in other parts of the College of Communication and Fine Arts in their arts department as well. And I'll go over that. So that's one thing I wanted to mention. Um, we have a relationship with the studio art department that's under the college. Not as expansive as we would like our ceramics department, and do more work like that. But we do have graduate assistantships in the studio arts department that are available to our students specifically. The students put together an art show at the beginning of the year. It's totally student run and curated. And that's also in the gallery over in the studio art department. Our last show was Homebodies, Bodies Within and Worlds Beyond. And there's also an alumni art show. And we've also had support from the studio arts department with our last research symposium that had to do with clay work. Yes. Also want to mention here, one of our founding directors, Helen B. Landgarten, um, who really was instrumental, her and others, in having art therapy specifically be known as a primary modality out in healthcare, and also looking at it as clinical art therapy training and seeing art therapy as its own separate profession. So when you're looking at our program, you really want to think about it in terms of a dual degree program of sorts, where you're meeting the requirements of an MFT, but also as an art therapist. And even though our program is very integrated, they're considered two separate professions. Also, our clinic is named after Helen. So again, we are a marriage and family therapy program and meet all the requirements for the under the California Board of Behavioral Sciences to be licensed as an MFT in the state of California only. You will have to check in other states if you plan to transfer your degree or your license elsewhere. You have to figure out those requirements. But we do meet all the requirements for the state of California. In addition to that, we are an accredited and approved art therapy program as well. And those classes are all integrated together. We don't have a separate MFT track or a separate art therapy track. For those of you who may be less familiar with art therapy, you want to think of it as a mental health profession that uses the knowledge of human development, psychotherapy, counseling techniques, art media, and creativity to treat mental illness and other issues as well. And it's been developed across disciplines. So it includes the arts, of course, but psychiatry and also education fields. We work with a variety of clients, including children, adolescents, adults, so different populations across the human development and life stages. Here as well is just a little bit more information about those two programs and our approaches to them. And again, they're approved by the American Art Therapy Association and also the Art Therapy Credential Board and also the California Board of Behavioral Sciences and the Commission on Accreditation of Allied Health and Education Programs. So that'll be important for you to know as you're choosing programs as well and looking forward to licensure or credentialing in the state of California. Mm, Okay, just anything else I want to mention about that. Here are our full-time faculty, which I'll introduce to you today. We do have many other part-time faculty that do teach many of our classes, in addition to about 20 part-time faculty who work as our clinical and art therapy supervisors in the program as well. So we have the chair of our department, Dr. Lavinia Jackson. There's myself, who functions as the program director, but also clinical assistant professor. And if you're entering the program, you'll probably be introduced to me when you're doing your practicum as your art therapy supervisor. Then we have Kathleen Fogel-Richmond, who is our practicum coordinator. So we do have a full-time practicum coordinator, and that's the person you would speak to about your placement sites. And she also makes sure that all of our students are meeting their hour requirements before they graduate, and that the placements where our students are working are meeting requirements as well. That's her responsibility. And we also do offer, and we'll get to that more later, 2 practicums as part of your degree program. In addition, we have Dr. Jessica Bianchi, who's also a graduate of our program and received her PhD from LMU, but in the education department. She's also the director of our Helen B. Landgarten Clinic. We have Dr. Joyce Green, who's in charge or director of the Art Therapy Research Institute and also one of our assistant professors. Then we have Dr. Nancy Cho, who's one of our newest, newest as our full-time faculty member. She's been working as a part-time faculty for many years and is also a graduate of our program and is assistant professor as well. And then we have Dr. Maru Sarichu Joyner, who is the director of our art-based programs, which is one of our newer directorships. So she's in charge of partially in terms of the Research Institute for the art-based portion of that, and our alumni art show and other art-based related activities and programs. Then we have Tracy Gamble, who is our senior administrative coordinator, who some of you, if you called or emailed us, may have been introduced to Tracy as well. She's usually your first point of contact. But I also like to mention in terms of our faculty as a whole, it's very unique to our program. They're very involved in clinical work, in research, in community advocacy in different ways, depending on their individual specific interest. But also, they've been involved in our professional organizations on the board, or each chairs in that way as well. And some of them may have been writers of the textbooks that are used in this program and in other programs as well. And in addition, let me see if I have it here. Yes. So if you'd like to know more about our faculty, and specifically it would be for the full-time faculty that are featured, we have a faculty showcase that is happening on March 25th, so in 2 weeks, 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m., and it is virtual. So you can join us from anywhere. And I believe we may have the registration link coming up in the chat. If not, you can also check our website and register there. But it's in this event, again, it's only about an hour and a half. Each of our full-time faculty will do a presentation for you about their current research and creative projects. All right. Any questions before I go into the program schedule? We're good. Okay, good. All right. So let me see. All right, so this is the point where I'm going to go through what does the weekly schedule typically look like? What are the courses that are included? Again, all this information is on our website and is included in the university bulletin if you'd like more details of the breakdown of our individual courses. Typically, there's lots of questions about what theories are covered and practices and how those are integrated into the curriculum. All of that is also available in our university bulletin that is on the LMU website. you can also email me separately and I will give you a direct link to that bulletin. But a lot of that information I'm going to share with you is there. Again, we have a 2-year program and a 3-year track program. The 3-year track program just spaces out the classes a little bit more across 3 years. It's still the full 60 units. I do try to let people know the 3-year track, even though we call that our part-time program, compared to other um, programs or different types of studies that you may be doing, like if you're doing education or business or something else, a different type of degree, those 60 units still can feel like 60 units. Um, and so you still carry quite a heavy load for a master's degree program, even in a 3-year track. But a 3-year track is sometimes suitable for those who prefer like their pacing in education to be a little bit different, or if you have other responsibilities that you need to take care of in addition to being a student in the program and can't do the full-time schedule, um, or for those who may need to work or work more hours than they're able to on the 2-year course schedule. Again, classes are spaced out until your final year in the 3-year program, and then you're taking the same amount of courses as the 2-year track students that you'll be graduating with as well. So they do kind of increase over time. Our school year starts between August and September. In the fall, we're actually starting September 1st, and goes until about the first week of May. And then there is a summer session, which we'll get to as well. Okay, so in the fall semester, in your first semester in the program, this is what a typical week would look like. So classes would be on Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. There may be other clinical opportunities available outside of those dates, but there's no class requirements outside of those days or on weekends. That are not volunteer. So, and you can see the spread of classes here. So you get to kind of the foundations of art therapy studio classes, introduction to mental health services, art therapy literature and research, the fundamentals of marriage and family therapy. This is just the introduction to law and ethics. You do take a separate law and ethics class. Then there's child psychotherapy theory, psychopathology and psychopharmacology, and psychological testing. So you are taking like 8 courses your first semester on the 2-year track. So that's what I'm showing you now for those of you on the 2-year track. During some of the classes, particularly child and adolescent and these adults, one of your summer classes, you have field studies that are connected with those. So this is your first field study. So you do some field work as a class, visiting Dolores Mission School that we've had a long history with. And this is so that you get to see potential clients at this age level in the context of where their work, where they would be. So to get to see the experience of what's this child development look like in a school. So basically observing children in the spaces where they actually learn and interact. And then this is a picture from from the student art show. Then in your second semester, you have classes just on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So again, you have another theories class, you have your adolescent class, um, marriage and family therapy observations and contemporary practice, art-based exploration of DEI in clinical studies. That's where you talked about arts-based advocacy, and then our trauma theory and treatment and suicide prevention class. This is also for if you're on the 2-year track, you get your first practicum experience. So again, we talked about with your child class, there's a community field experience, but also in addition with your adolescent class. And some of the intentions of the field study is also that you can start entering these spaces where you actually may be doing some clinical work. Um, to kind of start to lower those anxieties and confront those anxieties or perceived limitations you may have about working with clients or moving into these spaces. So here's your first practicum experience, 16 hours a week. You may be working with children, adolescents, or adults. This is meant to be a short-term treatment model because it's only for a semester. And that'll be helpful to you because most of you who may be moving on to working in community mental health agencies, you're looking at short-term versus long-term care. So you get your first experience with this. As part of your practicum experience, you do have an art therapy supervisor that is assigned to you, and in addition, an MFT clinical supervisor as well. So you're getting your hours for both your art therapy credential potentially and your MFT credentials. Okay, now we're going into our summer session. So there's only one summer session. And this is where you take your drug, alcohol, and addiction classes, your aging and long-term care class. That's the other class that you have a field study for as well. And these classes are both required by the BBS. And our summer sessions are a full intensive week or week in a day, meaning you'd have classes from about 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. In addition to that summer class, we also have our international program. Some of you may be familiar with if you've looked at our website or been to other events. This is a collaboration with a program in Mexico where we also co-sponsor art therapy certificate programs in Mexico as well. In the past, we've met up in San Miguel de Allende in Mexico. The year after that, it was been in Mexico City. And this summer, the students will participate in this program in Oaxaca. And it'll be their first time there as well. This summer program, we're treating a little differently moving forward than in the past, meaning we're looking at this as part of our curriculum. It's not more units than the 60 units, but the expectation is that all our students participate who can in this particular program. If anyone has extenuating circumstances, there's a process to notify the program of that and find an alternative. But we want to start the language of this is part of our curriculum moving forward and not a separate study abroad program. So now after the summer, we're in our second year. It goes by fast. And so our second year or final year students are only in class on Tuesdays. Here, moving into cultural considerations in art psychotherapy, learning more about assessment and interventions, intimate partner violence, abuse assessment, reporting, and treatment. And this is where you begin your research groups as well. And so that's a full year. So you get 2 fall and spring semester, you're doing research, and fall and spring semester, you will also doing your practicum, which is increased to 20 hours per week. And you are at a different practicum placement than you are for your first year. So again, here we have our practicum. It's 34 weeks, so now we're looking more at long-term treatment models, 20 hours a week. Again, you could be working with families, children, adolescents, adults, and other older adults. You also still are assigned a clinical supervisor and a separate art therapy supervisor. Here is a map of some of our current and past practicum placements. Those are changing all the time. But some examples are like outpatient services and in-home services for children and families. We have services for women and small children through domestic violence shelters. There's school-based services for children and families, bedside support for inpatient children in hospitals, early intervention and day treatment intensive programs, um, group and individual services for disabled adults. And those are just a few of the type of practicums or internships that you may be able to participate in. And part of the process is you do meet with our practicum coordinator, Kathleen, and talk about some of your interests, but also some of your other circumstances or things that may need to be considered when placing you at a practicum. And she does her best to make a match. It doesn't always work, but you do have the opportunity for that to happen. Now we are in final year, the last semester. Again, your classes are only on Tuesdays, but you're going into continuing clinical studies. You're now into human sexuality, couples, and adult psychotherapy. This is where you do your professional ethics and identity and go more into law and ethics. And that class is also intended to prep you for the law and ethics exam that you need to take after you graduate. You continue with your research paper or research group, and you are continuing with your practicum. This is not a separate practicum. Again, you're continuing the full year practicum. So I'm not going to go into detail all the classes for the 3-year program. I'll just give you a minute to look at this. You can just see how the classes are spread out. For example, in the first year, your first semester, you're only coming to class Tuesday and Wednesday and not on Thursdays. And then that changes your second semester. It's just on Tuesdays you would come to class. And then you can see how that changes in your second year. And then your third year is the exact same program or schedule as the 2-year group. So in the 3-year track, what happens is you will start with one cohort because we are a cohort model, meaning we have about 25 to 27 students is what we aim for, that you start with and that you graduate with. And you take all your same classes together in the same order. Those of you on a 3-year track will just start with one cohort, but then you will graduate with a separate cohort. Okay, before I go into clinic, I'm gonna make sure there's any questions about classes or the program that I've covered already. All right, maybe those questions are getting answered already. Okay, so I'm gonna move into kind of beyond our coursework a little bit, is into our other endeavors. One is our Helen B. Landgarten Art Therapy Clinic. The clinic we like to explain, well, you can see there in the picture, the door. But behind that door, really our clinic is considered wherever we are working out in the community. It is not a physical room or space, even though we do some programs on campus in our suite. Our clinic is out wherever the work is how we like to think about it. This is also where many of our first-year students do their first practicum is through the clinic. We also offer supervision consultation for our supervisors, which is also really unique to us to make sure our supervisors or our therapy supervisors and some of our clinical supervisors that are hired through the department, so not the agency supervisors, but the ones that are hired through our department are able to actually have support for themselves as well. We have our Thomas Riley High School therapy groups, which used to have a major program for pregnant and parenting teens, but now has expanded beyond that. We have a summer arts workshop. There's an art therapy program for those with cancer diagnosis that we work in collaboration with Cedars-Sinai Hospital. There's a collaborative divorce training program with LMU Law School. That's one of our newest programs and ones we're really proud of. They actually work with lawyers in the law program in helping couples divorce. So, but in using art therapy to do that. We have our Veterans Art Therapy Group in partnership with Arts and Healing Initiative, and also recently our Wildfire Response Program. many of our students can also get their hours by volunteering with some of these programs throughout the year. So in addition to the practicum assignments, these are additional ways to get art therapy and or MFT hours.
And yeah, we had one question that
Yeah.
I don't think I have the answer to. Someone's asking why choose MFT over LCSW.
Uh, let me go back, sorry. That I'm not sure I feel comfortable responding to, only because my background is as an MFT, is not as a social worker. So they are two distinct professions and philosophies in terms of how we approach care, even though in practicality, we're working in many of the same spaces, but the training is different. The MFT specifically, we're looking at the individual as related to in a greater system, whether it's their family system, if it's a smaller system of a couple, or in the greater community, and it's like relationship to self and others. So it's very relationship based in how we approach the therapy and clinical work. I'm not sure how the life, don't, or at least I don't want to say and start guessing and give you the wrong information about in terms of social work, how that's approached differently. But I will say it is worthwhile actually researching both uh, professions to see what might be a better fit for you in terms of how you would like to work or the lens you would like to work think about as you're approaching clinical work as well. I also know that in social work, typically there are options where you can graduate with a degree in social work and decide not to do clinical work. So you may have many social workers who are working in different spaces in different ways who are not necessarily working as clinicians, and that's also an additional or separate path if you actually want to see clients in that way. So there's other different pathways within social work as well. And social work just happens to be an older profession. MFT is much newer.
And someone also asked about LMFT versus LPCC. I don't know if they're referring to at LMU. We're
Oh,
distinct from LPCC, but
yes. So
yeah.
yes. So there is two distinct programs at LMU also. So there is a separate, and I can't tell you as much as about that as well. An LPCC program. So it's licensed professional clinical counselor. Through LMU, we would be preparing you for an LMFT. Those two do have slightly different, they're slightly different as well. And again, I would encourage you to read up on the LPCC and the LMFT to really get accurate information about the distinctions. Here in California, the LPCC is the newest credential of all of them, and it might be 10 years, maybe no more than 10 years old. It's a newer credential in California, not in other states. There's other states where LPCCs have existed for a very long time. In California, sorry, um, that credential came about mostly because of a lot of clinicians coming from out of state into California, or even art therapists who were moving into California and wanted to practice from other states who needed another pathway in order to practice in this state. And so the LPCC was a pathway to do that. Um, and they advocated and got that established here in California. So there are actually more pathways and more people to be able to work as well under that licensure who wouldn't have been eligible under an MFT licensure.
And then there's a follow-up,
Hmm.
um, someone asking, can an LCSW also become an art therapist?
Okay, that's a great question, Lily. So at the moment in the field, so the answer is yes. So yes, you would just need to find, so if you're, well, let me answer that two ways. If you are an LCSW already, um, the field of art therapy is still working out credentialing programs where you do not have to get a whole other master's degree for the art therapy part if you have another mental health license and be able to be credentialed as an art therapist. if that makes sense. So that's for those who maybe already have an LCSW, and LMU does not offer that program. So we are not a certificate program at all. Is the short answer to that as well, because we do get questions about that. So if you already or have another mental health degree, you would have to take our full 60 units in order to graduate from our program. We don't offer separate certificate for those who have another mental health license. But the Art Therapy Credential Board and ADA are working on um, having more certificate programs for those in that particular situation. So having more different pathways. There may be some other programs that exist out there where they do have a separate track for those who are coming in with a license, but I wouldn't be able to name those at the moment. Um, and there are other programs in other states that you would be getting an social work degree and an art therapy degree. Ours just happens to be MFT because we're in the state of California, and art therapy. But there, yes, it does exist that people have an LCSW and an art therapy credential. Hopefully I answered that. If not, feel free to email me or I can restate that as well because those things get a little complicated, but I can clear that up for you. Any other questions like that? Okay. Okay. So in addition to our clinic, we also have our Art Therapy Research Institute. The Institute has visiting scholars, faculty talks, usually about 2 a year. The faculty talks still continue. We haven't had a visiting scholar in a little bit. It has the Art Therapy Alumni Research Collective. So that's so thinking about how can you stay connected with the department or with the program beyond graduation. And this is one of the ways you can join this research collective. So those of you who are interested in continuing your research after graduation, this is a group that meets once a month to support each other in continuing their research and to learn how to do research. And they're actually very active right now, and another journal will be published very soon, I believe within the year, because they're collecting proposals now. And then also, like I said, we have the annual research symposium. This year's symposium is going to be on cultural appropriation. They're still working out the details, so I don't have registration information for that yet. But again, you can look at our website for more information about that when it's ready. And that will be May. We do have a date, it's May 2nd, but I wouldn't be able to tell you any other details about that at the time right now. All right. So let's go into, see if anything I missed. Admissions process. Oh, and this image, by the way, is from our alumni art show. And that's one of our alumni artists talking about their work. And if you come to visit our suite, you'll see all the artwork up on the walls in the suite as well. All right. So our admissions process, once you've decided to do this, I will admit can seem a little daunting. But what I do also say to applicants who are in the middle of this process, and when you see how much is required, depending on where you're starting from, it may take you a little while to be ready to submit an application. And that's fine, because then the readier you are, the better your application looks. But it is a little bit of an extensive process. Part of it has to do with these requirements, particularly the prerequisites, are the educational requirements for an art therapy credential. So this is something the department just kind of made up and asked because they're looking for it. If you go to the Art Therapy Credential Board website, this is the requirement for those who are pursuing a credential in art therapy right now. Things can always change, but what I'm showing you is what's required as of today. And then the other thing I like to share sometimes is if you get through this process, we do hope, because all the bits and parts of it, we do hope there's something that you're getting out of the process of completing this application, all the parts of it. whether you're initially, admitted at first or not, that you are getting something out of doing this. But it also does give you an indication of what it'll be like in the program to carry our course load. It can be a little intense and heavy. So if you make it through this, you're almost there. So there are prerequisites that we have, a minimum of 18 semester hour credits, or you convert it to 27 quarter hour credits in studio art. Again, this is a requirement of the Art Therapy Credential Board. It cannot be art therapy theory. It can, or history. It is studio art. We do look for um, a variety of studio art classes. I get a lot of questions about like graphic arts or fashion or things like that. Those are all valid arts modalities and courses, but we do ask that you do things like drawing, painting, clay, ceramics work, because those are the type of materials that you'll actually be using regularly with clients. So maybe you might be one or two of the other studio art classes where you're actually doing some art making could be included, but it shouldn't be the majority of your prerequisites that you've completed. Then we have prerequisites in psychology, a minimum
Genya,
of, oh
before
yeah.
you get into that, someone's curious. I don't know if this necessarily matters, but people
Mhm.
are wondering where they typically get their studio art prereqs done if they don't have an art BA major.
So you can take them at any college or university. You don't have to have had a degree in fine arts. So if you want to go back to your community college or to a four-year institution that's offering these classes and allow you to take them without matriculating for a degree, you can do it that way. There is another option that if you're taking courses under a mentor, so not in a traditional college or university setting, you can do that. I don't have the numbers in front of me, so you have to email me. There's a certain number of contact hours you have to complete, that will equal the 18 semester hours. It's like 200 and something. So, and you just also, so you have to complete that amount of contact hours and have whoever it is that's teaching you those courses or is your mentor for those courses, sign off that you've completed that amount of time. So there is another option, and you can combine them as well. So if you took some art classes before, but now you plan to finish the prerequisites some other way, and this is the studio art requirements, you can do that. And that's another thing that I recommend, that if you're in that situation or curious about that, email me and I will help you figure out the numbers for that. And then in addition, it's the psychology prerequisites. Again, it's 12 semester or 18 quarter units. In developmental psychology is required. Developmental psychology could be child, adolescent, or lifespan, and psychopathology is required. It used to be called abnormal psychology. If you're looking at our old website, it's now psychopathology. If you find a course that's similar and you're not sure it would be accepted or approved by us, you can send that to me as well. I just ask for the course name, the number, and the description of the course if you're unsure. The remaining course units can be any psychology course that you choose. The other caveat for the psychology courses, not for studio art, but for psychology, the courses must be within the last 5 years of you submitting your application, and it must be have completed with the letter grade and passed it with the letter grade. If you take a course, like sometimes I'll get transcripts where someone will submit a psychology course they took a few years ago, and at the time we were not focusing on psychology or other things, and they did not pass the course. I recommend if you did not pass that you just retake that course instead of submitting it with a non-passing grade, because that will be a red flag. And if you've taken a course, let's say within 6 or 7 years, just email me and I will let you know whether or not we can approve that course. And please do that before trying to retake it. Because the reason for the 5 years is just in this field, the information changes so quickly We just want to make sure that you're coming in with a strong foundational knowledge. And we have heard from students before that once they start their psychology courses in their program, if they did not adequately prepare, they do feel behind. Even though we go over child again and we go over adolescent again, it does help if you're not coming from a psychology background to have these foundational courses before entering the program. The classes may be taken at any accredited college or university. You can do it's not called an independent study, but kind of like on-demand study class. It can be virtual or in person, as long as it's from an accredited institution and that you can get an official transcript showing that you received a passing grade for that class. So there are different options for completing this requirement. I want to pause there. Okay, good. We're good on time. Okay, we're good. Okay. Okay, other admission requirements. Oh, and stretch if you haven't done that. We're in the first hour. We're almost there. Take a sip, walk away from the screen if you need to. Again, I promise you this is being recorded, and we will get that recording to you. So again, so you must enter the program with a bachelor's degree. Your bachelor's degree does not have to be in fine arts or psychology. That's helpful to students who are entering the program. It does give you an advantage, but it's not a requirement for us. Um, for those who perhaps completed their degree more than a few years ago and you feel like your GPA is not reflective of your commitment today, because life happens, right? Um, you do have the option of taking the GRE, which we do not require. But if you want to take that to show that you are actually ready for graduate study, that's an option for you and you can submit those scores. We ask for 2 letters of recommendation. If you are in the process of applying to the program, please submit your recommendation letters with a letter on letterhead and with a signature. So what would happen in the online application, you will just write the name of the person who's writing your recommendation. They will receive an email from us, and then they upload their letter of recommendation. But sometimes those letters get sent to us without a signature or letterhead, so you just want to remind your recommenders to do that. Otherwise, we have to ask them to resubmit. Then you have your autobiography. In the autobiography is another opportunity to explain if, there was something happening during your undergraduate degree that you feel like is not reflective of the student and the person you are today. You have an opportunity to talk about that there. Um, in the autobiography, we want to look at your personal narrative. Like, how do you want us to know you? What is your story? And how do you connect those events so we understand how did you come today to seek out pursuing a career as a therapist at this point and in this program? And however you string those life events together and what you choose to share and not share is totally up to you. I do remind everyone what you choose to self-disclose in the autobiography is your choice as well. Then we have the art portfolio and statement. We ask that you submit up to 10 images. Our reviewers do look for a variety of different types of submissions in the portfolio. So you can look at a variety of media and you're asked to select one of them and talk about that image. And then in addition to that, there is an online interview. So that'll be part of the application process. So our application is totally online, and I'll show you that in a minute. And there'll be a part where you can upload a video of yourself answering specific questions. And you just want to make sure that you actually read the questions that are asked and answer them in full. And I think you have up until 3 opportunities to record yourself. Because I know not everyone feels comfortable recording themselves on camera. That's fine. Practice, rehearse, talk with someone else, about it before you hit record and submit it to your application. We don't know any of that stuff. Do whatever you need to do to prepare yourself and to feel comfortable. And then when you're ready, upload it to your application. And then there's also the prerequisite checklist. So, well, let me pause there for a minute. Anything? If no, okay. So we can get off of this wordy page. So the prerequisite checklist. So when we were talking about the prerequisites earlier, this is another question. Because there are so many, and we know you may be in the process of completing them during the admissions process or while your application is being submitted, um, you are allowed to do that. So meaning you can submit your application if your prerequisites are not complete, but you must list on the prerequisite checklist all the courses that are completed, where you completed them, the grade. And in addition to that, if you still have classes that are in progress or that you are enrolling in, you have to list all of those as well. The idea is that we need to know that you're actually committed to this process, that you actually have a plan to complete these requirements, even if they're not complete at the time that the application is submitted. And all course prerequisites and all parts of the application must be complete if you are admitted before the start of classes. That is the condition of your admittance, that your application must be completed in full, including prerequisites, before the start of classes. It has happened before that someone who was admitted in some kind of mix up with one of their classes, it was not complete before our class term started, and they had to delay admission. Um, so you want to take that into consideration. And again, we just want to know that you have a plan. Even though the plan might change, you want to know that you have a plan. We're taking your word that your intent is to complete these requirements. Again, mention the application that's available on our website is an online application. The application for fall 2027 is actually not available yet. So you can go to the website and see where the link would be, but the new application will be available this summer. But the new application deadline for fall 2027 is November 30th. Okay. So once you submit your application, it does go through an extensive review process. And then around January, you'll find out whether or not, so there's two phases. So in the second phase, those who make it through the second phase will be invited to a virtual group interview. And that happens around February. And usually those dates are also published on our website, but we're still in the middle of our admission cycle for fall 2026, so those dates have not been posted yet. So they're to be determined. So you submit your application in November. By January, when we return from our winter break, is when you'll know whether or not you've moved on to the second phase. And then those interviews happen in February.
Genya, someone was
Yeah.
asking if there's an acceptance rate that's visible anywhere.
Oh, like how
Yeah, how
many?
many people apply versus accepted?
No, we don't publish those numbers.
Yeah, that's so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the only thing I can say is that our class cohort is about 25 to 27 people. So we kind of accept enough to be able to fill those seats. And sometimes that number may change depending on if we have students returning from leave and things like that. And the reason, I'll say now too, the reason why our number is between 25 and 27, that's as much as like, not just about trying to keep the class sizes somewhat small. It really has to do with our physical space. We don't actually have a lot of space at the university to accommodate classes much larger than that. But the more important reason is because we guarantee you a practicum, we can only accept as many students that we can guarantee practicums for. So if there ever becomes another time when we can make available more practicum sites for more students and have more physical space, then we'd be able to enroll more students. but those numbers are just more practical than anything. Okay, and I promise you we are nearing the end, or at least the end of all that I have here. Let me just double check. Oh, okay. So financial aid, there are a few things I will say about this, but again, there will be a separate session that's offered by the graduate programs this evening, and we will put up those links where you can ask more detailed questions about that. And I also invite you to email the financial aid office. That email will be up on a slide in a minute as well, to get information about what the process is like, how much support you can anticipate, and things such as that. For example, right now, the tuition rate is $1,719 per unit. And we are a 60 unit program. Everyone must complete the 60 units in order to get a degree. That is the published tuition rate at this moment. I looked it up. I don't see a new rate for fall 2026. So you can look at this as kind of your estimate. Things that are available to you, we do have some grants available. There are graduate assistantships that are available specifically for our students that you can apply for, and that once you're admitted, you would get information about that. CAMP, which is the California Marriage and Family Therapist Professional Organization, and ADA, the American Art Therapy Association, does also offer scholarships throughout the year that we try to make available to our students, and we'll support them in applying to. If that process, we also have a new scholarship database that is available to our current students as well. And there's also specific college, meaning the CFA, our College of Communication and Fine Arts, and departmental awards that are given to students throughout the year as well. But those are to current students. For those of you who are for incoming class, the list of scholarships you see to the right are some of the ones that we have available. And I think we have a link available too that someone may put in the chat. You are able to look at those awards on our website and for the application process for that as well. So that information is available to you. Even if you can't apply right now, you can see what the process is. One thing that may be discussed later that you may have some questions about, there are some changes happening to federal financial aid or federal loans that we are aware of, and the university is navigating the best they can or communicating about really well. So you may learn about that a little bit later. But if you have questions about that, I can answer that too.
Genya, one question not
Yeah.
related to financial aid. Someone was curious if they are able to access that map with the practicum sites. I don't know that that's the most updated one, but I just wanted to ask you that.
Yeah, it's not the most updated map, meaning some of the things on there may be places that we don't serve anymore. But it's not available. But if you're needing specific types of information, you can just email me separately. Okay. All right, this is just giving you a name to this process. So Jennifer Bond, I believe, is still our Associate Director of Graduate and Professional Programs and can answer your questions about financial aid for graduate students. You can also see there the website financialaid.lmu.edu. They do take appointments. Okay, and in addition to financial aid support, what other things do you get for your tuition in terms of campus support? And here's just a list of a few things. There is the Academic Resource Center, Disability Support Services. We have our Graduate Student Association, Career Development Services. In addition, in the department, we have our Student Art Therapy Association. And we also have ACE, or Active Cultural Explorations Committee, that is inclusive of faculty and alumni members. Both of those groups are intended to support our current students and in some case alumni through offering programming and other supports. You do have access to the rec center, to health services, and to psychological services as well. So we have the student psychological services. In fact, we have an alum now who's working there, and community cares or support that offers other support other than psychological services or mental health support, and also timely care for you can call and get phone services or telehealth. And then we have other interest groups. Oh, and here we go. So I think I have this twice on here. If we don't get the link now, you get it later in a minute. So as part of our open house this week, if you want to join the student resource sessions that are available here, so at 6 o'clock, oh, and you will have time, let me check the clock, ooh, to have a break before these start. They will be talking about financial aid. There's also one on international admission, and then there's one on career and professional development that starts at 6:30. And again, we have the links for those that we make sure you will get before you leave us this evening. Other supports you have outside of our department or outside of the university are our professional organizations. Again, they may offer support just for networking and mentorship. They also offer trainings and courses, but scholarships as well, and conferences. So there's the American Art Therapy Association. There's our local Southern California Art Therapy Association, and then the California Association of Marital and Family Therapy. So I encourage you as well to visit those sites as you're doing your research, and you can learn more about the individual fields. And those of you who choose to apply, I would look at these things because one thing that we do look for, or one of the things we look for in a potential student, and in the application, is that you do have an understanding of what you're signing up for. Like, do you know what a marriage and family therapist is? Do you know what an art therapist is? And the type of training that you're about to receive. And then other ways to keep up with what's happening around the department and other events you may be able to attend. Like again, we have the faculty showcase that's on March 25th. We have a Facebook page, Instagram, our website that we're continuing to try to improve and make sure we have more information available. And then there's our department email. And you can contact me through that email as well. Let me just pause for a minute. Oh, and here we go. So the QR code I have here is for, there is a video that's available on our website that gives an overview of the program. And you get to hear directly from former students and from our faculty to get a more personal view of the program as well. So I encourage you, you can look at the QR code now, or you can go to our website and find the link there. It should be on the front page, the first page of our website to see this video. And also there was a video for practicum experience to get a little bit more insight about that. Other than that, again, resource sessions, those links are going to be in the chat. And we are complete. So here, if there's any remaining questions, again, I encourage you to move, stretch, take a breath, sip of water. It's 5:09. I do have time. We finished a little earlier to kind of address any questions as well.
Someone asked where they can access the Zoom recording.
My understanding is that it will be emailed to you if you registered for tonight. If you somehow found this link through someone else and didn't officially register, just contact graduate admission at lmu.edu, or you can email me at the department and I will make sure it gets to you. Let's see. Okay, I see this first question. Are appointments available for someone to go through our credits and see? Oh, I missed it. Let's see. I think I caught the gist of it. I'll answer it and then I'll wait and see what questions have been coming up. So, thank you for that question. So we do not do transcript reviews. So please do not send me your transcripts and then ask me to pick out which classes meet prerequisites and or not. What I can do is if there are certain courses you're not sure meet requirements, send me the names of those courses, what your specific question is, and more times than not, I will need to have a course description. So I can go through that. And again, too, with the what I'm trying to say, the studio art requirements, if you're not completing them through a traditional program and unsure how to make sure you're getting enough hours for that, just email me about that and I will lay out for you how to figure that out. But we are unable to just review blank transcripts and help you figure out units. And we ask that you please do your conversions yourself, but if you need to know what the conversion is from semester to quarter units, I can send those to you.
Um, Someone is asking about, I don't think this is something that you'd answer, but it's about the changes to loans and how LMU is handling that.
Yes. So yes, go to that session because they can answer directly. But what I can say is LMU has been on top of it. Right now, if you go to their page, they're in constant communication with our current students. Some of the changes that will eliminate the federal loans that used to be available, and so now we're having to rely on private loans. LMU is going through the process of vetting private loans to prevent predators. um, so they are going through a vetting process to see if they can recommend private loan officers that they have already checked and would approve of. So they're helping in that. Things are always changing, and I know a lot of these changes are supposed to be happening in July, but they're keeping track of that. They have a whole team where this is their priority. They're in constant conversation and communication about that. So again, if you go to their site or check in with the financial aid officer, they are able to answer those questions directly. I know there's some things with the new bill about whether MFTs and social workers will be designated as professionals or elsewhere, and that changes the eligibility of how much money you can borrow is one of the things that's coming up. We're staying on top of that as well, and trying to figure out how we can support incoming and current students as much as possible. This is also a reason to contact the professional organizations like the ATCB or CAMPed and follow their threads because there is advocacy that's happening right now um, to address all those proposed changes.
And then someone also asked about where to go, if there's opportunities for cross-departmental research and development in addition to the fine art. Oh, in addition to fine arts, um, like with neuro or cognitive science. I don't really think there is neuro or cognitive science at LMU.
No, not specifically. Um, how would I answer? So yes and no. So in terms like you have a very packed schedule with the requirements that you have right now with the program. Again, those are BBS and ATCB requirements. It does not actually leave you much time and room realistically um, to do those cross-discipline things. That doesn't mean that in some shape or form, if you're really what's the word? Be really determined to have those conversations early with faculty and other departments on your own to figure out maybe there is a possibility of integrating those things into your research study and elsewhere. But I don't want to put out there that there will be necessarily a pathway that we've created where you'll have time and space to do that. In the research right now, how it is usually it's done in a group right now, and you're assigned a research supervisor. So all of you are working on a particular research topic, which some of those things that you'll be doing are interdisciplinary in itself. I just want to be careful of not promising that you'll be able to have time and space to pursue actively a whole other separate interest other than what's already designated in the program. So it's not a no, but I just don't want to give that impression that that can happen readily.
And then someone was asking for your opinion on how art making is integrated into the curriculum, requesting to hear a favorite example from a course.
Well, those questions get answered separately, but it will, how I can answer that in general is that all of again, there's no MFT and art therapy separate tracks. There may be some classes that are more heavily influenced from the MFT requirements than art therapy, but all the classes are integrated. Um, Typically, they involve some type of art making, but it really depends on the course and the appropriateness to the course, um, as well. And I don't know, I mean, I don't want to put either of you on the spot either, but if you would answer that differently, being a student in the class, so they have a more realistic answer, feel free, Kennedy or M,
Yeah, we were
to give
answering
it.
in the chat. They
Okay, good.
wanted your
Yeah, because
opinion.
you
Yeah.
would know better than I what that actually looks like and feels like. Um, I do, I am honest with everyone too. Once you're entering a program like this, your art making that you may be used to before this program will feel very differently than how you're doing and pursuing art in the program in your classes. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it'll be different. Let's see. Anything else from the chat or in general I can answer?
I'm just scrolling through to make sure I didn't
Mhm.
miss anything. Also, if any of you want to just like speak if I missed your thing,
Oh yeah.
feel free.
Yeah, at this point,
There were a few questions about psychopathology versus abnormal psych, and people were curious if their abnormal psych classes would count.
yes, thank you for asking that. Yes, they will count. Abnormal psychology, which until a few months ago was still on our website as a requirement, is an outdated term. And so most of the classes may still be called abnormal psychology. Yes, we will accept them. But if you have taken psychopathology, we consider it the same thing. That's the term that we would be using now. But if you have any questions about that, you can always email me with that course and course description. But if you've already completed a course that was titled Abnormal Psychology, it is still acceptable. But if you want to make sure, again, just send it to me. I will tell you whether or not it's approved, and then you will have my email documentation stating that I've approved it if there's any questions about it later on. Oh, you can use the MFT. Let's see, can I put that in there? Here, I'll put it. I put the MFT department email in there. Okay, if there's not, again, you can take yourself off mute or raise your digital hand if you have a question. You don't have to put it in the chat at this point. I think Evan Kennedy kind of did a good job of just getting general questions that I could answer for everyone, but you can feel free to just ask questions directly. And if we're
Um,
complete, we'll also end up. Okay,
I,
is
I actually have a question.
yes.
Okay, so I'm also applying to another MFT program at Chico State, and they also have the prerequisite for child and adolescent psychology.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, in that county, they don't offer it at their local community college under the psychology department, but they do for child development. They accept that. Like, would you guys accept that requirement for the child and adolescent psychology?
For that class, I would ask you to send the course to me in the course description
Okay, cool.
and get it
Thank you.
officially approved. Yeah, and then that way you'll have it officially approved or not, because you're right, we do ask that it has a psych course title, but that doesn't mean it's not accepted. But if you send it to me and I approve it officially, then you'll have that documentation and don't have to worry about it.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Mhm. Oh, I see Maxine has a hand up, or at least that's the name I see. Sorry, that's not you.
That's me.
Okay.
Thanks. I was just curious about asking for applicants who are career changers without a background in psychology or
Yes.
studio art, what generally helps distinguish strong and successful applications that you've seen in the past from an average one?
So it So that's not uncommon that some people find their path to this field that don't necessarily have a psychology or fine arts background. Does that give you an advantage? Definitely in starting in this type of coursework, but again, it's not a requirement. It just means that you have to make more of an effort to complete all those prerequisites, and that's also why we have so many prerequisites, so that you at least have that foundational understanding and knowledge coming into the program. A strong application is really a complete application. Um, and I cannot overstate that. You really want to look at what we're asking you to do and make sure you've completed those things as have asked them. Um, in their entirety. That includes the video questions and that you've and in the autobiography. And in those things that you have conveyed that you are actually ready to commit to this type of education and this type of training at this point. Doesn't matter if before this you were doing something else and didn't know what art therapy was or what an MFT was, but at the time that you're applying to this program, you have a strong commitment and understanding of what this is that you're getting into and what you want to do with it is what will count. We all take different directions in life and honestly get here in different ways. And that's supported because you bring other experiences to the program as well. I don't know if I answered your question, Maxine.
Yeah, no, that's helpful.
Okay,
And
yeah.
maybe just to piggyback off of that for the
Hmm.
portfolio question, are
Yes.
there any more general guidelines for that? Should these be within a certain time period or should all be finished
Oh,
work, things like that?
thank you for your question. So yes, so for the portfolio, when you completed the work you choose to submit is doesn't matter to us. What we do ask is that you maybe show a variety of media in there. So for example, if your background is photography, I do not recommend that your portfolio is only photography. Show different things. But when we're looking at the portfolio, we're not looking necessarily for, well, we're looking for experience with different media because that's what you're going to be doing in this work, right? And we want to know your comfort level with those things, but also how you process and use these materials and communicate through your art. We're not necessarily looking for a high level specific skill in that. So if you didn't come from a fine arts training, um, that's okay. We just again want to know that you have experience with these materials. If there's something, excuse me, that you've completed in your home that you want to submit as, and I mean in your home as meaning not part of some course that you've taken as part of your portfolio, this is significant to you for one reason or another, or says something about you, please include it. Um, that's what's ever going to help us get to know you is part of it. We're not looking for the type of portfolio you would submit if you were in a fine arts program. We're not critiquing it in that kind of way. This is just another way to express and present yourself.
Okay, super helpful. Thank you.
Mhm. Um, oh, I don't see this too. I saw something about based on the fact that psychology prerequisites need to be taken within the last 5 years. Do most accepted students come straight from undergrad? Okay. No. That's whether students are coming straight from undergraduate careers or other careers elsewhere really changes from year to year. Um, this is a field that attracts people in different experience levels and different backgrounds. So it changes year to year. Some years we have a significant number of students who graduated from their undergrad in the past 2 to 3 years or just finishing their BA degrees. In other years, we've had cohorts where people may not have been in school for like 20 years. So it really can change and depends on that pool of applicants that year. And then I see a hand from Samantha.
Hi, yeah, I just want to hear more anecdotal experience from Em and Kennedy if you're willing to speak about what brought you to the program that you're in and your the classes that really excite you most. Only if you're willing to share.
Kennedy, can you go first? I'm just responding to this message real quick.
Yes. I would say, um, sorry, what was it? You said that particular like courses or
Like what attracted you to this program?
okay,
And
yes,
then
that
if
was
you
the
want to
first
add
one.
to that, if there's a course that has been
Mhm.
meaningful to you.
Okay. Yeah, I would say for me, I was one of the people who sort of knew for a while. A friend of a friend's mom was an art therapist in my hometown, and so I like knew about it from like high school. Sort of went into undergrad with that understanding and taking those classes, luckily. Which isn't everyone. I know that that's sometimes it feels like I'm on the lower end of people, but that a lot of people come to it later in life or after different careers. Um, but that was my experience of just really enjoying both art and psychology and liking the idea of combining the two. Um, as for courses, I don't know. Honestly, I've really enjoyed quite a few of them. I always enjoy our studio courses where we get to be in the studio and do a bunch of that art making. Um, I'm in a research class right now that's really cool too, to be able to explore that side of things as in conjunction with more clinical. But yeah, it really varies and there's a lot of cool opportunities throughout the program.
Yes, similar to Kennedy, I kind of knew I wanted to do art therapy for a while. I think LMU has a really strong program combining the MFT to it. I think that's really rare, and provides a really unique perspective. And I agree, a lot of the classes, I prefer the studio classes the most, but all of them do incorporate the art making, whether that's a 5 minute warm up at the beginning or sculpting clay while the professor is teaching. Sorry. Um, so yeah, I think they all have unique qualities to them that are really um, enjoyable. But yeah, I really like it. It's a lot of work, but it's really worth it.
Really cool. Thank you.
Okay, maybe just one or two other questions, only because it seems like we've answered most of them, and then I can let everyone kind of have a break before they move on with their evening, if there's anything else. And we'll wrap up at 5:30. We're good? Oh, wow, okay. Hopefully we answered your questions and I didn't just scare you. And so you're all ready and set. But again, I am available to you afterwards via email. Um, for questions, and questions may come up after this. We also have our suite tour visit. It's just for an hour from 12 to 1 this Friday, the 13th, if you're near campus and can stop by. And then again, continue to check our social media and our website for other opportunities to meet with our faculty, students, or just like see what it is we do outside of this virtual space. And next week, the faculty showcase, I mean, not next week, sorry, in 2 weeks, March 25th, the faculty showcase is a good place to ask more questions and directly from the faculty who will be teaching you to find out what they have to say about the program and what they're up to. All right, thank you all.